Hello, this is Ray Main here again with today's Bible reading. Today we're going to be reading in the book of Genesis, chapter 22. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took two of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the third day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place where God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. You know, I've thought about that a lot. These two or three scriptures here. You know, the Bible doesn't say it, but I wonder what was going through Isaac's mind at the time. You know, you wonder what was going through Abraham's mind. Abraham, in his mind, he was just obeying God, because God had already told him that in Isaac would his inheritance be. He had told him that out of Isaac would be raised a nation for as the stars of the sky and the sand of the sea, as for multitude. So you know, he wasn't worried in his mind, and you know, about sacrificing Isaac, because he knew that God had already said that. You know, and this is the reason why Abraham was, I guess, put so far forward, if I can say it that way, as far as God's concerned, because he just believed God. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing that thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Jehovah-Jireh, as it is said to this day, In the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And I might say here, just as an aside, custom has it that this is the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the mount that Jerusalem sits on today, is the place where Abraham went to sacrifice his son. That's where the temple is built, up there. Anyway. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, said the Lord. In other words, the Lord made this covenant all by himself. You know, a covenant or an agreement is generally between two. And God had made an agreement or a covenant with Abraham. But this is a covenant that God made all by himself. And the people in this world today that are working against Israel had better remember this covenant. Said, well, this is the Old Testament. That's all passed away. Jesus said, you remember in the New Testament, Jesus said that I haven't come to do away with the law. I've come to fulfill the law. So we need to consider this, okay? Let's read this again. And said, By myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she hath also borne children unto thy brother Nahor, Huz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram, and Chesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jedlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel begat Rebekah. These 8 Milcah did bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Reumah, she bare also Tebah, and Gaham, and Thahash, and Malchah. And that's the end of the 22nd chapter. And while we're at the end of this, what does it matter about what Abraham's brother, the names of his kids? Because right here, Rebekah. Later on, we'll see that Isaac, Abraham's son, was needing a wife, and that wound up being Rebekah. So that's the reason that those were named. Anyway, that's the reading for today. God bless you. I trust you'll have a blessed day.